Yo, welcome to the channel. Hope you're having a great day. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, I'd greatly appreciate it. Let's get into a history of the Lord of the Rings video game series. Let me know in the comments down below your favourite Lord of the Rings video game. I would have to say it's probably Lord of the Rings, The Third Age. Yeah, if you haven't played that game, check it out. It's an amazing one. Also, be sure to check out Titus Minnow. Give him a subscribe. I'm excited. I'm excited for this one. I did like the movie games. Let me know in the comments down below if you'd like me to do like a Lord of the Rings month where I just play tons of Lord of the Rings games. Could be fun. Let's get into this. I'm assuming there are a lot of these. Excuse you. I'm assuming there are a lot of these that I've never played. So let's do this. And probably a lot of these that I don't know about.
If you ask me which franchise had the biggest impact on me as a child, it would be the worlds created by J.R.R. Tolkien. From my grandfather reading The Hobbit to me as a small child, to watching the films every Christmas with my family, the video games have also had a place in my childhood memories. From the surprisingly decent movie tie-ins to the relatively serious turn-based RPG titles. So let's take a look back at the history of the Lord of the Rings video games.
My precious.
We start our journey in the time before the Lord of the Rings films, a time when Lord of the Rings was not yet mainstream, and was instead a 60-year-old book favoured by only the most hardcore of fantasy fans. The first title to release was 1982's The Hobbit, a text-based adventure that required the player to explore dungeons and loosely followed the storyline of the novels. The game received moderate reviews and sold an estimated 500,000 copies. Unsurprisingly, the game sold most copies in the United Kingdom. The developer of The Hobbit, Beam Studios, and publisher Melbourne House teamed up together for 4 subsequent titles, all text-based adventure games. In 1988, Melbourne House decided to go it alone and created War in Middle-earth, a real-time strategy based in Tolkien's universe. The game, while mostly average, stumbled upon something special, something that wouldn't be revisited for many years. The Lord of the Rings world lended itself so perfectly to the RTS and RPG genres. The 90s saw a number of Lord of the Rings action RPGs release and receive middling reviews. While it was clear the source material
Whoa! What are the name of these? This looks fun.
was more than good enough to forge a top-tier game out of, it was also clear the developers just
What's this?
weren't quite getting it yet. Interplay of Fallout fame and Beam Software both made titles, and none of which really stand the test of time. In 2001, the first Lord of the Rings
I'll be the
movie
judge of
hit
that.
theatres. This flipped things upside down. Suddenly, the Lord of the Rings was cool. Toys and action figures featuring characters from the films covered every toy store in the Western world. Lord of the Rings fever had begun and would last for a solid decade. This also meant a renewed interest in Lord of the Rings video games. This is likely the period most of you watching will have started playing. If you've seen my history of the Harry Potter video game series, you'll know that my main complaint levelled against the movie tie-ins was a rushed production schedule, so as to release the films alongside the movies, and this hurt quality greatly. Thankfully, publisher Vivendi Universal Games did not force developer Surreal Software to adhere to such a schedule, and this allowed for a polished, quality game to release 9 months after the movie's release. The game was an action-oriented hack and slash with RPG elements. It followed the storyline of the movies and allowed little
You know the one I can't remember? I remember playing Two Towers and I remember Return of the King games. I can barely remember playing this one, I'll be honest.
creative freedom, but harkened back to the arcade beat-em-ups of old, allowing the player to take control of a beloved on-screen character and hack their way through hordes of orcs. Strangely, there was only a month between the release of the Fellowship of the Rings video game and the Two Towers video game. This is likely due to different publishers and different developers working on each title, with EA Publishing and Stormfront Studios developing the Two Towers.
Oh, this was such a good
The Two
game.
Towers video game came out a full 6 weeks before the movie it was based on. This game is arguably the best of any Lord of the Rings game released to date. It delivered something similar to the Fellowship game, but much more polished, much more detailed, and just head and shoulders above any Rings game we've seen to date. Unlike the Harry Potter series that released over an 8-year period, the Lord of the Rings films came and went within 2 years. 2003 brought us 3 games, all different, all great. The first of which was Stormfront and EA's follow-up to the Two Towers, The Return of the King. It built upon what they had delivered previously and just notched things up a tad. It didn't really see many improvements, but it didn't really need to. The Return of the King lived up to the hype set by its predecessor and delivered on all the promises it made. The next game is The Hobbit, which seemingly came out of nowhere.
I need to play this.
A platformer with hack and slash and puzzle elements, The Hobbit was a breath of fresh air. The cutesy graphics really matched the more childlike elements of the Hobbit books in comparison to The Lord of the Rings. Unfortunately, it was a one-off, and there was no follow-up on this great little game.
Oh.
The third title on this list was War of the Ring, a real-time strategy that followed the book narrative as opposed to the film. Harking back to 1988's War in Middle-earth, War of the Ring confirmed the fact that The Lord of the Rings really does fit the RTS genre.
Never heard of this.
Reliving the battles of Helm's Deep, the Mines of Moria, the
Oh my god, wait, is this basically just Warcraft but Lord of the Rings?
Battle of the Shire and the Battle of Pelennor Fields, among many others, provided the player with endless enjoyment and replayability. Following 2003, there was a 9-year break in between the Return of the King film and the first Hobbit film, so the newfound hunger for Rings media had to be filled by video games, and thankfully, we got a few solid titles to do so. 2004's The Third Age was an interesting experiment, and one of the games that I remember most fondly from my younger years.
Yeah, this is my favourite Lord of the Rings
Visceral
game.
Games brought the Rings franchise to turn-based role-playing games.
Yep.
Featuring gameplay relatively similar to Final Fantasy X, the game offered a decent level of depth, character customization, and a decent story to follow, that sat outside the movie plot, but still tied to it. The game also featured a rather unique and interesting evil mode, which allowed the player to play as the bosses at certain points during the game to really mix things up. Overall, The Third Age was a wonderful title, and it's absolutely heartbreaking that this game never got a second outing.
Yep.
A number of RTSs also released in the mid-2000s, but there's not much to derive from them as they were little more than DLC for War of the Ring. During the mid-2000s, the handheld market was all the rage, and publisher EA wanted to use their Lord of the Rings IP to cash in on the newly released PSP. Lord of the Rings Tactics was a solid little turn-based RPG that played out like a game of Warhammer, surprisingly difficult to beat, with a range of characters from Lord of the Rings lore to play as and against. Tactics offered decent value for your money. At the end of the noughties, Lord of the Rings Conquest was released by Battlefront 2 developer Pandemic Studios. Honestly, I'm shocked that this game isn't more talked about, as I have pretty great memories from playing this multiplayer with friends on the Xbox 360. Being a lowly soldier on some of the most epic and memorable battles from the franchise is what the Battlefront series is all about, and Lord of the Rings Conquest really did fit in quite well with the genre. The Lord of the Rings Online is a game that I should have loved, but could never quite get into. It offered the entire world of the films to explore, quests to complete, and characters to meet. The game felt a little tacky to me. Having played WoW, it felt like a cheap imitation and a bit of a cash grab.
Damn.
However, the game has great reviews, and perhaps I never really gave it enough
attention. I've never played Lord of the Rings Online.
Guardians of Middle-earth, released in 2012 during the MOBA craze, that had been brought on by League of Legends and Dota 2. It was bad. It was a cash grab. The less said about this, the better. 2012 and 2014 saw Lord of the Rings and Hobbit LEGO games release. If you've watched my Harry Potter history video, then you know that I'm a fan of the LEGO video game series. The Tolkien Universe LEGO games were no different. They delivered the humour, fun, and quality that you can expect from the long-running series. I feel they also released 11 years after the end of the first film, so young people who had fallen in love with the universe in 2001 were now able to share this experience with their young children. 2014 also saw the release of Monolith Productions' Shadow of Mordor, a surprise gem and honestly, the best Lord of the Rings game released to date, potentially, tying with Two Towers maybe. Shadow of Mordor went in a completely new direction, playing as a new character and playing out a different story to either the books or the films. The battles felt epic and fast-paced, using a combat system similar
I need to give this game another chance. I played the first one, Shadow of Mordor, I think like a couple years ago. And I don't know, I remember feeling overwhelmed. I guess with Lord of the Rings games, it's you just get annoyed that they're not the way you want them to be, if that makes sense. Because you love the franchise so much and you're just here playing this. I don't know. It's really hard to put my finger on why I didn't like Shadow of Mordor or whatever it's called. I need to give this game another chance, and I will very, very soon. If you ever want to see me gaming and trying out these types of games, twitch.tv/OmarioRpg. Just go and follow it. That's all you got to do. It's basically the way. If you're not sure what Twitch is, it's a live streaming service, and It's much better than YouTube's live streaming service. You'll see if you ever show up on my Twitch channel. It's just much cleaner and easier to use. It's got a much better interface, which is why I don't stream live on YouTube. Twitch.tv/OmarioRpg. Go check it out. And basically following me on that is just a way of, it's like subscribing on YouTube. It's completely free.
Alongside Assassin's Creed style parkour, enable players to take down foes and get out of dodge when things got too dicey. The most intriguing mechanic to the title, as well as its 2017 sequel, was the Nemesis system. This system was a hierarchy of enemy chieftains that the player had to take down and manipulate to enable them to get to the final boss.
Excuse me.
This could be done by killing chieftains, mind controlling them to kill each other, or using some as spies. The sequel expanded on this by allowing players to build up followers that could aid them in battle or be sent to take down enemy strongholds. The best part about the Nemesis system, however, is that it existed outside of the player's influence. Sauron's followers would frequently betray each other or kill each other in angry duels, so it felt real. I take it back, Shadow of War is the best Lord of the Rings game to date. In terms of future projects, well, it looks bleak. Many are hoping for a third installment in Monolith's series, which, thanks to positive sales, does look likely. We can all hope.
No.
German developer Daedalic Entertainment has recently announced a Golem-focused game to be released in 2021.
Yes, I'm excited
No
for that.
details have been announced or leaked just yet, but I expect an action series focused on stealth.
Yep.
But that's it. That's all we have. Which does seem a shame.
It
The
really
Lord of
is.
the Rings trilogy is 16 years behind us, and the Hobbit series is 5. It really does seem that perhaps the mainstream Lord of the Rings hunger has been absorbed completely by the Game of Thrones fanbase. However, Amazon have recently announced the Lord of the Rings TV series is in production, rumoured to be the most expensive TV show ever made. This could bring Lord of the Rings back to mainstream popularity, and hopefully we'll see a few more solid games out of the series yet.
I don't know if anyone... Listen, let me know in the comments down below. With a brief explanation, you don't have to go into it. What genre would you like a Lord of the Rings game? Imagine this, right? If anyone in the comments, or anyone watching has played a Divinity-styled game, it's like a top-down game and then it's turn-based. That's all I want. I want a Lord of the Rings CRPG. They're called CRPGs. That's all I want. That is all I want. It would just be so good. Just give me an amazing storyline with a Lord of the Rings CRPG vibe. It doesn't even have to be like 100 hours like Divinity is. Obviously, I'd love it like that though. Tons of side quests, tons of lore, tons of books to read about the lore of Lord of the Rings. Like, it's such a shame, man. I know people are going to be like, yeah, Shadow of War's good. There have been Lord of the Rings games, good Lord of the Rings games. But has there, when you think about it, when you think about how good the series of Lord of the Rings is and how much lore there is in it, has there? Okay, get rid of the Shadow of War games that people seem to like. It just didn't do it for me. I do need to try them again. Sorry, this is a soft spot. Always gets me. I love my gaming, and I just want my Lord of the Rings gaming. But if you'd like me to try any of these, tell me in the comments down below. That Lord of the Rings, that first RTS looked really fun.
So what do you think? Do you have a fond memory of any of the games I've talked about? What are your hopes for the Lord of the Rings in terms of video games? Please subscribe and comment down below.
Oh, I
as
just
I'd love
answered
to
you.
know. If you'd like to support me on Patreon,
That was a good video. Where's Battle for Middle Earth? Yeah, someone mentioned Lord of the Rings War in the North. Lord of the Rings Online, a cash grab. I could not disagree more. So, Battle for Middle Earth and Lord of the Rings War in the North. Interesting. Interesting. Let me know if you've played any of those. Thank you so much for watching, though. I really, really appreciate it. Be sure to subscribe. Just click the red button. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out. God bless. And take care. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really appreciate your time. Please hit the subscribe button. We're on the road to 500 subscribers. It's so simple. Just click the red button. And follow all my socials. I stream daily on twitch.tv/OmarioRpg as well. And if you want to support the channel further, the link is in the description to tip the channel. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate it. Peace out, God bless, and take care.